Welcome to How to Knit for Complete Beginners. Today is lesson 1, How to Knit, and we're learning the garter stitch. The garter stitch is just a fancy word for what happens when you knit in rows back and forth on your needles, and it becomes these ridges that you see down here on this scarf. You're actually going to learn how to make a scarf today in this video. You're going to learn a bunch of technical terms. Don't worry about the terms. I'm going to help you get the yarn on your needles, tell you what that's called, learn how to make that knit stitch, learn how to get the yarn off your needles, I'll tell you what that's called, and learn how to tie in the ends and add some yarn even. So don't worry about the technical terms. I will go slow. I intend for this to be for absolute beginners or people who need it very slow. First, I want to encourage you, you can do this. Go at your own speed. I would ask that you go ahead and watch the entire video so that you learn as much as you can. Just sit back, relax, so that you're more confident for when you actually dive in and get your needles and yarn and start working with it. That way you've already listened to everything, kind of started absorbing some of that information, and when you get started, it'll be a little bit easier for you. Don't worry about having to pause and rewind. Everybody learns at their own pace. I want you to feel free to make mistakes. I encourage you to make those mistakes. Go ahead and finish out your item. And that way, when you work on your next one, which you will, you can look at that first one and go, wow, I've come such a long way. And then you can learn how to fix those mistakes and things like that. And don't worry, I'm going to teach you how to fix things like that too. All right, so sit back, relax for the first time, and then you're going to get your needles. So we're going to dive in here in just a moment. I'm Kristen with GoodKnitKisses, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Welcome to GoodKnitKisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. Psst, don't forget, in the description box below, there are links. One is to the blog about this video and the pattern that you're going to get. Yes, you're going to learn a pattern. And then also is a link for our previous video on important information for supplies and things like that. So be sure and check those out as well. All right, let's begin. In this video, we are working with a bulkier needle. These are US 15 or 10 millimeter needles. And if you saw our overview video where I talked about the different sizes of needles, if you decided to use the US 8 or 5 millimeter needle, just know that you'll need twice as many stitches on these needles as you do on the bulkier ones, because it's going to produce a smaller stitch on the smaller needle. So you need twice as many because of what we call gauge. That's the size of the overall stitch. We'll get to that in another video, but for now, just know that you use twice as many stitches on the small as you do on the larger needle. All right, let's jump right in. To begin knitting, you need to do something called casting on, and it's going to get the yarn onto your needles, and it produces an edge of the knitting. Okay, this one is nice and stretchy. It's not overly loopy or anything like that. It has a smooth edge, and on the other side it has kind of a bumpier edge here. Okay, so this one is called the long tail cast on, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. I also have a video on the knitted cast on, and you can click down in the video description down below and see how to do that. It reinforces the knit stitch here. I'm also going to teach you in this video how to make the thumb cast on, because it actually reinforces how to do the long tail cast on. And if you get in a pinch and you're frustrated with the long tail, you can do the thumb cast on and then start your knitting so it's not so frustrating. I do want you to know that if you go down to the description below, we will have timestamps so you can jump to the different method that you need, whether it's the thumb cast on, the long tail, how to knit, how to finish it off, and all that other stuff that you'll learn here in a moment. Those timestamps will be there. You can click them and jump right to that section. All right, so let's begin by showing you how to do the cast on for thumb first. For the thumb cast on, we are going to start with a slip knot. You can make your slip knot however you're comfortable with it. This is just how I make it. I'm going to show it to you first, and then I'm going to undo it and show you again in a slower fashion. So we're going to take our tail, wrap it around our finger twice, take the back loop over the front loop slightly, and do it one more time up and over the tip of our finger, and it creates a slip knot. We're just going to pull on those tails, and you can see how if I pull one, it makes it smaller, and if I pull on the loop, it makes it larger. So that is a slip knot. It comes out easily just by pulling on it, just like that. And let's do that again. So we're going to take our tail, wrap it around our finger twice, take the back loop over the front slightly, take my new back loop and put it up and over the tip of my finger. Okay, and then we can pull on our tails. Just like that. And we have our slip knot. Let's place that directly onto our needle. Just put that loop right through and pull on it. Okay, and then now I'm going to take the needle hand right here and put my finger on top of that loop so where it stays in place. And now I'm going to grab the tail with that same needle hand and just kind of hold it out of the way. Okay, now the yarn that's left is coming from the ball, and we're going to work with that, and we call it our working yarn. It's just a term. If you hear it another time, that's what we're talking about. The yarn that you're working with is the working yarn. So grab the working yarn with your hand, and then we're going to put our thumb down on that yarn that's sticking out, and we're going to twist our thumb towards us and up to where it's parallel with our needle. So let's do that again. We're going to pull it out, grab our yarn, put our thumb down, tilt it down, and twist it towards us and up. And then we're going to take our needle hand and put the needle underneath that loop that's on the thumb and pull it up to where it's on there now. And then let our thumb go and just pull on that yarn, that working yarn. And it creates a loop onto our needle. And that is a stitch. And you've cast it on one. Now you can put your finger on that stitch that you just made and do it again. So grab our yarn, put our thumb down, twist it, scoop it up like that, and pull on it, and you've created a stitch. And put your finger here. And make sure, allow yourself some space. So if you want to give it a little bit more yarn leeway, you can just put your finger there and give yourself some even spacing so that your stitches aren't so squished. Okay, so you can cast on for that way. Now we're going to do the long tail cast on because that's actually the best method, but I want you to see the mechanics of that because it's going to be repeated in the long tail. So pull that out. And now we want to pull out enough yarn for a long tail. We want to do about 3 times the width of the project we want to make. So if I want it 6 inches wide, I need to pull out 3 times that amount of yarn and leave a little tail. So I'm going to pull out, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then you can put your slip knot. I just wind it around, back loop over the front, back loop over the front and over the tip, and we have our slip knot. And then we're going to place that onto our needle, and I'm going to place it with the tail toward me. See this tail? And there we go. And the ball part towards the back. Okay? So we can also begin with no slip knot as well. Yes, that is correct. You don't have to have a slip knot. In fact, I can show you that here in a moment. But for now, I'm going to show you the mechanics of how to do the long tail cast on, and then we're going to do it slower. Okay? So I'm just going to grab this yarn here where the ball yarn is at the back, the tail is toward me, and then I'm going to put my thumb and my index finger through those two, and we're going to pull back like a slingshot. Okay? And now we're going to scoop up at the thumb. Remember, that looks just like our thumb cast on. And then we're going to add some extra yarn in here, okay? The thumb is just a little part of our mechanic here. We're just going to go down at the finger here, and that's going to be our real stitch here. So we're going to pull that on through the thumb area, and then we let go with the thumb, and when we pull on the yarn that's coming from the tail, you can see that yarn is going to be the one at the bottom of our stitch, right here. So the yarn that is on the top of our stitch is actually coming from the working yarn, and the yarn that's at the bottom that's going to make that pretty little braid we talked about, it's going to be down here for the tail. Okay, let's do that again. And oh, by the way, I've got my finger on this stitch here up top, and I'm leaving a bit of space. Okay, so let's scoop up at the thumb and down at the finger and down at the thumb, and then let go. Before I let go, I'm going to go ahead and put my finger on here, and then when I pull my tail yarn and I snug it up, I don't snug it up too much because I want to leave a little bit of gap here so that I have that nice stretchy edge. Okay, so let's do that slower for you. I'm going to pull this out. We're going to go all the way to where that slip knot was, and I'll show you how you don't need a slip knot. So let's just pull it all the way out, just like that. We can put our needle right in, right where that slip knot would have been, put our finger on there to hold it in place. And then now we're going to grab this again. So again, here's the tail, here's the ball yarn, grab it with our hand, split that yarn, tilt it back, and you can pull out as much yarn as you need. We're going to pull it back like a slingshot, boom, like that. And now we're going to come to the thumb. We're going to pick up through the thumb, go underneath and up, and then twist around to the index finger down here. We're going to go down at the finger, and then we're going to go down through the thumb, put our finger on there to give it some spacing, and hold it still, and then we're going to pull on, we let go with the thumb and we pull on our working tail. Okay, I said working tail, it's just pulling on the tail yarn. So we've got that to where it's not too tight where it doesn't slide, but not too loose to where it falls off. Okay, now let's do this again. Keep your finger on the stitch that you just made, go up at the thumb and down at the finger, and then back through that thumb area again. Let go at the thumb, put our finger on this needle here to keep it in place, and pull on that tail. And now you have made one more of those little stitches. Okay, you can see that nice braided edge here. Okay, so continue casting on. You're going to need 12 stitches for this bulkier yarn, the super bulky yarn. If you're working with the smaller needle and smaller yarn, you're going to need about 24 stitches. So I'll do one more, and then we'll pause our video and we'll meet you back in a moment. So go up at the thumb, down at the finger, down at the thumb, put your finger on your new stitch, and then pull it, and you're done with that stitch. All right, pause your video. I'll see you in a moment when you have 12 stitches. See you soon. All right, I've got my stitches cast on, and they're evenly spaced out. It's about 6 inches wide. The spaces in between are actually about the same width as the yarn that I'm using for my stitches. And I'm going to be working with this hand as my dominant hand. So if you want a right-handed or left-handed video, you can click down in the video description below to get the one that works best for you. So what the needle is that we just worked with over here should be your dominant hand, and we're going to turn and move this needle over to the other hand, and then you can grab the tail yarn and just hold it back like that. So we're going to be using the working yarn over on this side, and what I'm going to call the working needle over here. I'm trying not to use the words left and right in this video because I'm going to use it for my right and left-handed video, and just flip the video on the computer because I am actually right-handed. So you'll notice where my wedding ring is depending upon the video you're watching. So I'm going to be working this in what's called English or American style, and we're throwing the needle, throwing the yarn around our needle and going at it from this direction. There's another style called Continental, and it's held in this hand over here, and while your dominant hand is working this direction. I don't work that way normally. I'm not as comfortable purling that way, so I don't want to have the series that way. So we're just going to do it the way I normally knit, which is English or American style. Okay, so we're going to pick up our working needle, and we're going to slide our stitches all the way to the end. Now you don't have to have spacing over here anymore, and you can just kind of hold it together here so your stitches are towards the pointed end of the needle. Now we're going to take our other hand, our working needle, and put it through this first stitch. We're going in between the first and the second stitch, and it's like a teardrop shape. Imagine a person is sitting on here and they're facing this direction like they're riding a horse. And I like to say that this is the right leg of our cowboy or cowgirl, okay? Doesn't matter who, but somebody's sitting here. We're going to go through their right leg, and we're going through the back part right here, okay? So now we have our working needle. The tip is underneath here, okay? And then we have our other one on top. We're going to take our working yarn, and we're going to go around. This is our little lasso, right? Or some people call this the tree, and you're going around the tree like this. So we're going to take our yarn and go around towards the other hand and go in between these two needles. So we're going around the working needle, See that? You're just going around both. Okay. And then you're going to be taking this yarn and it's going to go back through where we just came from. So we're guiding it through with the tip of our working needle. You can push it against the other tip to keep it there in place and doesn't fall off. So we just push it on through and you just picked up a new stitch. And so you can just push the old one off, boom, like that. Don't worry about the spacing here. This is just fine. It looks great. And then you can move on to your next one. So we're going to go through this stitch here, just as we did before, and we're going to yarn over and make a new stitch. We're going around and we're going to go through. So let's do this slower and without holding on to it, especially like I have. If you were frustrated, let's start over. So all you're doing is you're putting your working needle through this loop here, okay? Right through the middle, not between the two, but through the middle here. And then take your working yarn and you're just going to bring it around that back needle, okay? And then I'm just going to hold on to it to give it some tension, okay? A little bit of tightness. I'm going to hold on to it and then just hold on to my needle here, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not worried. Don't worry about a technique of holding it. This is just a way of giving a little bit of a tension, and then now you can push this needle on through, okay? Or pull, whatever way you want to call it. You're pulling this new loop through, and then you're letting the old one drop off. It has to drop off. Just going to push it on over like that. And as you do that, let's pull back and look at our stitches. You've made 3 stitches that have a V shape. Do you see this little point here? And there is a right side of the V and a left side of the V, just like this, like that. So we have 3 V's, 1, 2, 3. And that is the knit stitch. So you just continue all the way down your row until you get all of the stitches, and we're going to knit those up. So I'm going to go through mine, and you can pause your video and you do yours. And when you catch up, unpause your video and play, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so as we work, your last stitch may be a little bit loose. It's fine. It will continue. After we get the first couple of rows in, this looseness is going to diminish. It's going to go away. So we can, if we pull back here, you can see how we have our knit stitches here. And this little bump that's down below is the bumpy side of our cast on. So we're just ignoring that, but I do want you to see that little bump. You're going to see a bump on the other side when we flip this over. So turn it over, and you are seeing the back side of your knit stitch. It looks like it's somebody's back of their neck and they've got a scarf on it, right? That's the purl. The purl stitch is automatically made when you knit. And when you turn your knitting back and forth like this, you continue to make knit stitches and purl stitches on either side, and you get ridges like here, okay? So that's actually what we're going to be making. We're just going to continue making this knit stitch back and forth until you have all these ridges here, okay? So you're going to knit until the length that you want. Here's a small sample that I did. I just put some extra yarn through my what we call live stitches. These stitches are the ones that are hanging on to my needle. I just put some scrap yarn through so you can see it. So you'll continue making all of these rows until you get to the length of the sample that you want. I'm going to advise you to just make a swatch, which is a small sample of your knitting, And then we'll get to the point where we take it off of the needles, and I'll show you how to weave in your tails, so you have all of the things that you need to know how to do to make this scarf that I'm going to tell you about towards the end of the video. Okay, so you're going to continue knitting and getting comfortable with the knit stitch, and I'm going to show you while you're doing that how to undo stuff and some of the things that can happen while you're knitting as well, just so in case you make a mistake, you'll know how to fix those. So I'm going to turn to my knitting. Let's see, oops, I'm going to turn it over here, and we're going to work on our next row, and go straight into that row and knit, and let that old stitch drop off. And I'm going to knit a few, and let's say I get distracted and I do this. Okay, so let's say I come through and I put my needle through my stitch and I just let go and I forget to knit it. Or maybe when I did my yarn, it didn't actually knit the stitch somehow, and then I ended up knitting some more stitches. Okay, and when you turn the work around, you may notice, oh hey, this looks different. I have this extra loop here. Why do I have this loop here? Did I drop my stitch, or what happened? So you can actually go backwards and fix that right there. So let's go and unknit our stitches. To knit backwards is called tink. That's actually the word knit spelled backwards, and we're just going to do that right now. So I'm going to put the yarn towards the edge, and we're going to put the tip of our non-dominant hand through this stitch that was just worked. So you can pull back on the working yarn so you can see it. When I pull back, you can kind of see that stitch. Just put your needle right in that little hole, okay? And then now you can drop that stitch off of the working needle and pull back. And we've undone that stitch. We've unknit that stitch. We need to do that again until we get to the stitch that's the problem. You can put a stitch marker on here too to mark where the problem area is, so you can see it, where to get back to. So let's pull this back, put our needle in, and undo our stitch. And here we go. Now look what happened. When I pulled that out, it just skipped this stitch here. Okay, so we need to get this stitch back over here so you can set it up correctly. So just take your needle and twist it and put it right into the stitch here between the first and second stitch. Okay, and now it is back on the needles correctly. I can pick it up and put it into place, right? So see how like I can move these back and forth with the tips of my needles. You just want to make sure that it's set up to where it looks like this is the right side and that's the left side, and not twisted around. So if it was done like this, see how this is really tight and twisty looking, and this little part is set up different? That stitch is twisted, and we just want to make sure that we just kind of move it back and forth until it gets into the right position to where it looks like it's like an upside down U like this, and then just slide it right back on your needles. Okay. All right, so this one is ready and set up to continue. So we're just going to knit and keep going. All right, so pause your video, and while you're paused, you're just going to continue working on your knitting until you get about 6 inches long, which should be about 24 rows. Let me show you how to count your rows. Finish this row and I'll show you. Oh, and by the way, there's that where that loose stitch was. It's not actually loose anymore. So let's look at this here. This sample, you can see in between the rows, you can see that V stitch, and then there's that purl up above. Okay, so we have the purl stitch up above, and that counts as one row and then a second row. So you could count it in pairs. You could say that, here, let me turn this one over here. So we have a knit row here, and then we have the purl row above. So every time we see the ridge here, we can count that as 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And so I would need to go to 24 rows for this size to get about 6 inches. So go until you get to that point, pause your video, and I'll meet you there, and we will learn how to get the yarn off of our needles. See you soon. When we are finished with our work and we want it off of the needles, we do something called binding off. We want to bind off one stitch at a time, taking the stitches off of our needles. And so we begin that by actually knitting the first 2 stitches. So let's go ahead and do that now. Knit 1 and 2. Pause your video as you need. And then you want to make sure, and when you're doing that, to be nice and loose. If you pull too tightly, your bind off can make a very puckered edge. Like this edge here can look a little puckered. So we want to make sure and do that loosely. Okay, so the next step is to take our first stitch that we knit over the second stitch. We're just going to pick it up and over. We're passing it right over the tip of our needle. Just like that. So we're using both of our needles together to work for us and passing that stitch over. Now, one of the keys to doing this is holding onto the yarn back here or holding onto the stitch with your finger because it could easily just slide right off. And so it can be a little intimidating when you're a beginner. I totally understand that. So let's do that one more time. We'll do that slower. So I've got the first one bound off and it makes this little bitty edge here. It looks like a little V stitch on the top. We're just going to go into the next stitch and we're going to knit that one because this first one's already done. Now that we've begun the process, the first one's done. And now we just knit the second stitch. And now we're ready to bind off another one. So we just take the first stitch and move it up and over the tip of our working needle. And I'm holding on to it back here. Okay, I'm just keeping some tension on it, pulling on it so that it doesn't just fly right off of my needle. So we're going to pick it up with this needle here, just up and over the edge. And now it's bound off. And so you just continue that same process. Go to the next one, knit that stitch, and lift the first stitch up and over the second, and slide it over that needle, and it's bound off. And you get this nice clean edge. So just continue doing that until you have 2 stitches remaining, and I'm going to show you how to complete your knitting and polish that off. If you want to see how to undo this, if you messed up and it's too tight and you want to go backwards, here is a quick tip. You see that you have 2 loops here. You have this one that you just did and this one that you just dropped off. All you got to do is go back into the dropped off stitch, and then you can let this one go here and put this needle into this one, and you got it. So let's do that again. So we're going to pick up our old stitch here that we dropped off, and we can put our needle into this one here, and then pull on our working yarn, and it undid it. Look at that. It's like magic. So here we go. We're going to knit our stitch, then we're going to pass that first stitch up and over to bind off. Okay, so continue binding off, and I will see you when you have 2 stitches left. See you soon. We've got 2 stitches left, and all you need to do is knit that last stitch and bind it off. And then you're going to cut a tail. I've actually already got mine cut, but you can just cut, 6 to 8 inches, something like that. And then you can just pull that yarn tail right on through, and you are ready to go ahead and start weaving in these tails. So grab your tapestry needle, your large-eyed tapestry needle, whichever one you're going to use, and we'll do that now. When finishing your work, you have a tail that you just ended with, and you have the beginning tail, and they need to be woven in to complete your project, like your scarf. You're going to need a tapestry needle to do that. And when you're a beginner, I went ahead and left this a little bit long. When you're a beginner, it's easy to have this yarn at the end kind of loose, and I've never seen anybody really address this on a beginner video, but I'm adding it in here just because for some people I know that it would bother them. So all you have to do is kind of follow your yarn as it's gone, and this is the last V-stitch here, so you can pull on this one and find that the other end is this one here, and you just get it a little bit tighter. Don't make it really tight, just give it a little bit tighter to keep the stitches consistent. And then you can follow it. It goes down underneath this little bump here, and it's this one here. And then follow it goes up here, so you just pull that one, and then it goes around and it comes to this part, and you can just kind of continue following it through this area here just with your needle, your tapestry needle. And what I do is just kind of spread out the stitches here, the slack on the stitches, and then it ends up kind of evening out this end here. So if it's just way too big for you and it bothers you, you can go ahead and do that. And as you learn to knit, you'll end up learning how to keep your gauge or your tightness consistent as you go, and especially on that bind off row, if you'll be real careful as you're working your way down, those last few stitches, actually what happens is they tend to gain the extra yarn that you're putting in when you put the tip of your needle in. It kind of pushes this, it pushes extra yarn down through these stitches, and these first ones down here were a little bit tighter. So it's just something extra that you can end up working through later on. You're going to take your tapestry needle and work through this end here, and then we're going to weave our tail in. So we're just going to turn it on to the back or the front, whichever one you're more comfortable with, and we're going to work our tail up through these ridges here. And if you notice, I have what I'm going to call a smile and a frown, or a smile and an umbrella. So it looks like the curve of, say, an umbrella, and then this part is a smile. Okay, so you can call that a frown too if you want to, but we're going to go up through, we're going to say it's an umbrella, we're going to go up through there, pull through our tail, and then we can come up to this next ridge up here and make it a little bit easier. So let's come up through here, this side of where the umbrella comes is down here. So we're coming up here, and we're going to follow it around this edge here, and we come back down through this smile. Okay, so come down through here, and what we're doing is we're making our yarn follow that line, and then we can come down to this ridge down here and come down through the top of an umbrella, and we're going to go around this little smile. See that? We're going to go around this smile and up through here. Okay, up through this umbrella, and we're going to go up through this smile up top where we just were at. So what we're doing is we're weaving our yarn around and around and around. So let me pull this out and show you with another yarn. And we're doing something that is serpentine. It winds its way around, kind of like old-fashioned candy. Have you ever seen those? So let me get some in here and you'll see. So when I go up through here, I can go around this umbrella, down through the smile, and then down through this umbrella down below. Okay, it follows that curve, and then we're going to follow this smile around and go up through the umbrella, and then go back to where we were before. So we're going to go back underneath that smile and around this umbrella. Is that a little bit easier to see? You just keep following those stitches around. And after you've got a few inches down, you can come back on a few of these stitches and then trim it with your scissors, and then do the other end down here. And that's it. Once you've made your swatch, you are ready to move on to your scarf. And if this was a little bit too fast for learning how to weave in those tails, that's okay. I do have a dedicated video on that down below that goes much slower, so feel free to do that. And the pattern for the scarf is on our blog. We've got the link down below, and all you're going to do is cast on actually the same number that you did for this swatch. You're going to knit to the desired length. We have that information in our blog as well. and you can work for your one ball, or in my case, I am working with a product called Hometown USA in this particular sample, and I needed 2 balls, or I wanted 2 balls. This one had 81 yards in it, and I decided to go ahead and leave a tail, and then you just start knitting the next stitch with the next one. Just leave a long tail, and then after we go for a few rows, I'll just kind of loosely overhand tie that, and then come back and then untie it and weave in my tails when I'm done. And that's how I got the length that I wanted. A quick tip that I usually give people is if you stand and hold this underneath your chin and it hits the floor, that's the right length of a scarf for you. But we also have more information for different sizes of scarves as well down in the links below. How you doing? How'd that feel? Okay, I'm checking in with you. Be sure and comment down below and tell me how you're doing. I want you to be encouraged. You can get this. Just keep going on your knitting and you've got this. Join us for the next video lesson when you are ready. If you'd like to continue watching some of the lessons while you're knitting your scarf and you just listen in, that's great. And then you can start those lessons when you feel confident. You can watch all of them through at once and come back and work on them and select the ones that you choose to do next. But I definitely encourage you to work on lessons 1, 2, and 3 for the most basic of skills in knitting. Once you get those lessons, you really can do anything. Okay, so please join me for those lessons. And I can't wait to see your scarves. Be sure and tag me on social media at GoodKnitKisses. You can tag me on Instagram. Go follow me there and post your work. It'd be really easy to see. You can also find me on a bunch of other ones. I'm not going to list them out. You know where to go. All right, bye everyone, and I'll see you in the next lesson. See you soon. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.